Thank you, everyone. I just want to reiterate, thank you so much for taking the time to educate yourself. Like Daniel was mentioning, it's very important that we continue to expand our knowledge. And I'm just humbled and pleased to be invited to this webinar this morning. Well, for me, it's morning. For you guys, many of you guys, I'm sure it's evening. Yes, as Daniel was mentioning, I'm very passionate about software automation. I just love sharing my knowledge with other people and also learning from others as well. So let's go ahead and dive in. I'm going to go ahead and share my screen here. And hopefully you can see the presentations at Selenium 4. Just let me know, raise a hand or something that you're able to see it. Okay. Are you guys able to see it? I'm not. Okay, good, excellent. All right, so I'm calling this Selenium 4 a new chapter, right? You may be wondering why a new chapter. The main reason is because Selenium 4 is introducing some pretty cool new features that is just making it more competitive. We see that a lot of new tools coming out into the market, and Selenium 4 is kind of like the old, the old dog. This, how you're going to teach an old dog new tricks, right? So with Selenium 4, the main maintainers of this framework have introduced some modern new features that we're going to be seeing in this presentation. So let me go to the next slide here. And this is just a little information on me. I have a bachelor's degree in computer engineering, also computer electronic certification. I just love anything related to hardware and software. I'm currently, as mentioned, a lead SDET, and I have about 8 years in the IT industry. So my background is mainly insurance, e-commerce, and engineering domains. And prior to becoming, joining the IT industry, I used to be in the United States Navy. I got deployed to combat locations multiple times as well. And I'm also the founder of AutomateNow.io, which is just a place where people can go and learn software automation. And lastly, I'm a YouTube content creator, so I just love creating content for people to learn software automation. Next. So with Selenium 4, it's just a high-level overview. It's introducing some pretty, cutting-edge architectural changes, some enhanced user interactions, some clever new locator strategies, and the most exciting thing that at least I'm most excited about is the support for Chrome DevTools Protocol. So today, you can see the list of things that we're going to be discussing. So let's go ahead and dive in. So for the architectural, you're going to notice that there are some changes to the WebDriver itself, as well as the grid. There's some significant changes there. This presentation is mainly going to be focusing on the WebDriver aspect of it, just due to time constraints. So we'll take a look at that. All right, so here I have what the old architecture used to look like, right, for Selenium WebDriver. On the left box, I have just shown you guys an overview of what Selenium has, and on the right is what the browser vendors are doing, right? So here we have the different libraries for Selenium WebDriver, Java, JS, we all know those. And then we know that it was using the JSON wire protocol, right? And then the browser vendors were pretty much using a different type of protocol. The newer browsers, they've all adopted the W3C WebDriver protocol. So then we have the drivers for each of the browsers, one for Chrome, for IE, and et cetera, et cetera. So the way we have it, like say you pick we write our test, in Java, for instance. That test that we write, we want to obviously execute on the browser. But first, the JSON wire protocol would take that script that we wrote and encode the information, right? And then after it encodes that information, it would send it over to the driver so that the browser driver can understand what we're trying to do with the browser. And the driver would send the information to the browser. It would, perform whatever action we want to do. Let's say that it doesn't find an element, that it will send a response back, and then it will come back to the JSON wire protocol. It will interpret that response and it will decode the information essentially. So you can think of the JSON wire protocol as an encoder, right? Like a translator, right? Like the browser vendors are speaking one language, or a Selenium ecosystem is speaking a different language. So the JSON wire protocol was in place so that it could do this interpretation, of what is going on. So when it came back, then it would decode that information, and then our test could, say, hey, this element is not found, or the page is not ready, et cetera, or the test passed. We got a good response, right? So that's what it used to look like. So the main takeaway here is just that, the differences in the wire protocol being used. And just for reference, the WTC is basically an international community that works to develop standards, right? So the WTC WebDriver protocol is just a standard. I'll take you guys to the next slide. So this one is showing what is happening with the new WebDriver architecture. All right, so here we see the big red X. It just means that there's no more JSON wire protocol. It's basically being deprecated, and it's being ripped out of the language bindings. This one exception for Java, but we're not going to go into that. But basically, everyone is now speaking the same language, right? So we have Selenium WebDriver and the browser vendors all using the same W3C WebDriver protocol. And this is pretty huge, right? Because we're going to see pretty good results from this. So for example, your tests are going to be more stable, right? Because if you're speaking the same language as the browser are doing, then your tests can communicate faster in a more efficient way, right? You're going to also have better test execution. There's no more need to encode your tests, or decode information that is going out to the browsers, right? And another benefit to this is, it's like basically for compatibility, browser compatibility testing. When you're running your test, for example, in multiple browsers, if you've had spent any time with Selenium, you're going to notice that sometimes your test will execute differently in certain browsers, and sometimes you will need to go in and write special conditions depending on the browser that we're testing. So many of those things are going to be resolved by this, adoption of the new protocol. So that is also a big thing. And one thing that I would like to note is that if you're already using the latest Selenium version, which is 3.141.59, that already has the new protocol. So they coexist. They had both protocols, support for both of them. But with the Selenium 4, once it comes out, then it's going to be only the W3C protocol. And when I say once it comes out, it's because it's still going through beta testing, so it's not officially out yet. But you can start playing around with it, right? And another thing is that you're going to not going to notice any significant changes at the API level. Everything is happening basically at the protocol level. So what is happening in the background and the backend, it's not really going to affect your test. So if you're wondering, like, should I upgrade? What if this is going to break my test? I already have spent a significant effort in writing my test, and now this protocol is going to be different. How is this going to affect my test? And the short answer is no, it's not going to affect your test. There are some things that may have been deprecated, so you may have to tweak little things here and there, but it's not going to be significant changes. Your tests should pretty much continue to work as they were before. So that's the good part about it. So that's it. Basically on the new architecture, this is a pretty game changer, because it brings Selenium, up to date. Basically, we were using an different. This was basically developed by the Selenium community, the JSON wire protocol, and now we're just adopting what the standard is, which is the W3C standard, which is, I think, is great news. All right, another exciting feature is the relative locators. So this one is pretty cool because you can now find, let's say you want to find an element with relation to another element. So this is what the relative locators are going to do. And we have 5 of them, right? Above, you can find something that is above, something that is below, to the left, or to the right, or near, right? There's another one there. So this can be, before, we used to only be able to locate by, using, say, CSS, XPath, LinkText, et cetera. But now we can use these relationships, and which is pretty nice. And what is really happening here is that the find element method is now going to set a new method called with tag name, right? And this is going to return that relative locator that we need, right? In some use cases that I can think of, this is like, say, for example, we have some dynamic IDs, for certain elements that are kind of difficult to track. This might be useful for that. Or if you have some complex XPath, that might be a benefit as well. So I'm going to show you guys a little example of, how we can use this. And here I just have like a demo application. It's very simple. just a little screen that has an image, with a question mark. We have some text and 2 buttons, right? So let's say that we want to find some of these elements using the new locator strategies. And the first thing that I have here is just this, the import, right? We need to import this with tag name method from the relative locator class. That's the first thing that we're going to need. And now let's take a look at this element here. Let's say we want to find this image. So first we need to find like a starting point, like where are we starting from? So we're going to use the starting point as the text here, right? We're going to start from this text here to locate this element up here. So you're going to notice the first line here, I'm finding that text, right? And once I have a hold of that web element, I can go ahead and find the image. And I say driver.find element, and I use that method that we talked about with tag name. And then we just pass in the HTML tag for that element that we want to find. In this case, it's just an image, so we put img. And then we use that one of the method that says dot above. So I'm finding the element that is above the text, right? Just passing this dot above and then text. And this is going to give us this element up here, right? Now let's say we want to find this text down here, right? So again, we just find the starting point. Let's say we want to start from the image. I'm just really, there's no like only one way of doing this. It's multiple ways of doing it. I could have started from the bottom, maybe starting from the buttons, but I'm just picking a random location. I'm going to start from the image. Once I get a hold of the image, then I can say driver.find element with tag name, and then I pass in the locator, the tag for this text here, and I say below the image, right? And this will give me this one right here, right? Let's take a look at the buttons here. Let's say we want to find this OK button, right? So with this OK button, I can start from the cancel button, right? So once I get a hold of the cancel button, then I can use that information to get a hold of the OK button by using this to left off. So that will give me any element that is to the left of my starting element, right? And it has to match, obviously, this tag name here. And then I have to the right of. So we could start with the OK button, and then we say to the right of, and then we say OK button here. And this is going to give us the cancel button, right? In this case, we're using this other method here. And the last one is the near, right? So for near, this is going to find elements that match our criteria within 100 pixels. That's what the documentation says. So let's say we start with this cancel button, right? We find the cancel button, and then we say, find me an element that matches with tag name span that is near the cancel button. So this is going to return this one because this one contains the span in this example here, right? So that's how that would work. So it's pretty straightforward. And the next thing is element screenshots. So in the past, we used to be able to take screenshots of the entire page, but with the Selenium 4, we can now take screenshots of an individual element, which is kind of cool as well. So say, for example, you're running a test and you only want to make sure that a given checkbox is selected, or maybe an image is displaying on the screen. You can just take a screenshot of a certain element in the screen, right? So given little boilerplate code here that we have. So as you can see here, what we're doing here is we're finding the element, right? It's here, web element, and I'm finding here this welcome message here, and then I'm saying welcome.get screenshot as. So this is basically a new method that we can call on the web element, and then we can capture just the screenshot of that particular element. So and then we can just do whatever we want with that element. So let's go to the next slide. So another introduction is some new operations that we can do with the browser windows. So in the past, we all know that we used to be able to maximize the screen. We could make it full screen as well, but now we can have minimizing. For example, we can minimize the screen. And then we have this new method here called new window. And this will allow us to select the window type, right? So let's say we want to open a new window, we just say window type dot window, right? And the same thing with tab, you can say window tab type dot tab, and that will just open a new tab, So it just makes it easier for you to just write your test. You don't have to use special JavaScript or some other method of writing this method. So it's going to make your test easier to read and also write. Because if I'm reading this, it's very, very simple, very easy to understand. So it's pretty nice, right? Continue on test readability and writability. So some of the things that you're going to notice, some things have been deprecated. So in this case, before Selenium 4, if you wanted to write an implicit weight, you would write it in this form. You would specify how many, in this case, seconds. Say seconds, 10, comma, and then you time limit, time unit, and then you specify seconds or whatever time unit you want to use. With Selenium 4, it's just going to be a little bit different. You're going to say it takes a duration object. So you say duration dot of seconds, and then you just pass in the number of seconds. So it's just, I think it's easier, more simpler to understand. So it's kind of a nice little thing here. And the next one is Chrome DevTools. This is the biggest, I think, introduction that Selenium 4 is going to bring us. And this is going to basically bring Selenium 4 up to date with the, with the latest technologies that we have available. So Chrome DevTools is basically a developer tool built directly into the Chrome browser. This really means that it's only available for Chrome, right? So that's what the only caveat to that. And as some of you may know, like Cypress, Puppeteer, Playwright, those are already using the CDP protocol. That's why you see them that are maybe more responsive, quicker, more faster execution. So Selenium is just now catching up to those guys, basically. All right. So another change you're going to notice is that in order for us to be able to do this now, the Chrome driver, it used to extend the remote WebDriver, and it now extends the Chromium driver, which is going to allow us to have access to this CDP, right? So what can we do with this Chrome DevTools protocol? For example, we could emulate network conditions. We could emulate geolocation, so you could run your test from one location in the world and mock a different location in the world, right? This can be useful in many different scenarios I can think of. You can also change the display size on your, when you test runs, so the actual, when the browser opens, it's going to only show, like certain dimensions of the device, right? You can do cookie management, like setting cookies, deleting cookies, and also clearing the cache, and a lot more. There's a lot of information that is available. If you just Google the Chrome DevTools protocol, you're going to find the documentation, and you're going to see like tons of things that you can do with it. So I'm going to show you guys some examples of what can be done, right? All right, so for the example of the first one is going to be emulating network conditions. So let's say, when you open the DevTools in Chrome, we have this option here where you can set the throttling. You can make it fat, like a slower connection, for example, like 3G, for instance, or you can just turn it off. The example I'm going to show you is the equivalent of doing this, where we turn off the connectivity, right? So basically, I have created a map here, a hash map, which has some parameters, right? And these parameters I got from the internet as well, so depending on what command you're going to execute, you're just going to look up what parameters you need to pass. And then you just create this map here. So I'm saying offline is equal to true. This means that there's going to be no internet connection, right? Latency, this could be whatever you want, basically, because in this case, it's just no connection. So I just put 12,000. And then you have some options for download and upload. Can you download or upload documents? -1 means there's just going to be no opportunity to do any of those things, right? And I've included all of these, but they're not all mandatory. Some of them are optional, so it's really not necessary to include everything. But just for presentation purposes, I wanted to show you guys what some of the parameters are. And so we have this new method here, right? It says execute CDP command, right? So the driver can now call this method, and then we pass in the command that we want to execute. In our case, the command is network.emulate network conditions, and this is going to allow us to do this call right here, right? So I just passing the hash map, which contains the conditions that I want to execute, right? So when I call this driver that get whatever URL, I'm just going to get this page right here. It's going to say no internet, right? So that's what it's going to look like. Let me show you guys another example. So for geolocation, here's another one. Again, we're calling the execute CDP command. It says emulate set geolocation override, and then we pass in the coordinates, right? So in this case, I'm just pick some random coordinates. You can go to Google Maps and just get those coordinates, and you pass that in as long with the accuracy. So if you pass in one, that's usually going to be good to go. And then when we go to Google, and then we're gonna, send keys, we can say you're looking for rental companies near you, depending on whatever parameters you pass here, if as long as they're valid, then you're gonna get results based on that, on those conditions that you passed here. So this is how we would do the geolocation override. And I have prepared a demo for you guys, so let me go ahead and show you that. All right, so here I have the test that I want to show you. The first one is going to be that one where we emulating the network conditions. So let's take a look at that one. All right, so here you see just some basic stuff, setting up everything. And then we have the, we're going to emulate that the network is offline. And this is taken from the example from that slide that I showed you. So when I run this, this command here, and I try to go to this website, I should get no internet connection. So I'm just going to go ahead and put a breakpoint here, and I'm going to run this in debug mode so you guys can actually see what is happening. Bring the window over here. Okay, so we are at the breakpoint right now. So let me go ahead and go to the next. And as you can see, it navigated to automatenow.io, but it's showing no internet connection, So this is what we expected. I'm just going to finish executing the test. And as we can see in the console, we're also going to get an exception here, right? Error internet disconnected, right? So that's what we expected. I don't have any assertions in this case. It's just for demo purposes, but you would want to put in some type of assertion that yes, there's no internet connection, right? Let's go take a look at the next example I have here. This is basically emulating the geolocation. So I just picked the coordinates for Sydney, Australia, and I'm going to pass that in, right? I'm going to execute this command. And when this runs, we're going to go to google.com and we're going to search for rental companies near, my location. So let's go ahead and do that. Going to run in debug. Kind of drag the window over here. Right, so we started searching for rental companies near me. And as you can see, the search results are saying, car rental in Australia. Here we have the map. Let me just click on the map and show you guys. Right. So these were just the coordinates that I chose. And here we can see on the map, right? So this is pretty cool, So if you have an app that is relying on geolocation, selling some kind of, services where you, calling a taxi driver or something like, you want to make sure that it works in London, New York, and whatever, then you can do that very easily from, right from your script. Right? Just finish running this one. And I do have one last one. And this one is going to emulate a mobile device, right? So I just picked some length and width, some parameters for from an iPhone, that's one of the smaller iPhones. And when I run this command here, I'm going to say emulation.set device metrics override. So I'm going to pass in this information here, right? Mobile has been set to true. And when this execute, I should expect the browser to open like it normally does, but I'm only going to be able to see a portion of the screen, right? So it's going to emulate a device, right? So let's go ahead and run that one. I gotta bring the window over here. So as you can see, the window opened. We just navigated to the Selenium website. And here we have the website being rendered in the dimension that we chose, right? So this is it right here. All right. And let's see, as you guys know, we can also do that from the DevTools here. Like if you were to do it manually, it's this equivalent of clicking on this here and then just, changing the dimensions here, right? Selecting a different device and so forth, it's going to change the dimensions. So that's what I'm doing through the script. Right? And that's it for that. Let's go back. That's it for the demo. Let's go to the next slide here. All right, so these are some of the things that are also new in the Selenium 4. We have the grid. Like I mentioned, there are some significant architectural changes to the grid. I'll mention some of the points. For example, a node can run a session in Docker containers, which this is kind of big, so you're taking advantage, of these orchestration systems that are available nowadays. So we can actually run this, our test on a Docker container, which is going to be pretty powerful, I believe. We also have support for the newer IPv6 IP addresses, and users can communicate with the grid using HTTPS protocol. The UI also has some significant improvements. It's just pretty much prettier, and the version has been pretty much skipped one number. It's going to go from grid 2 to grid 4. That's going to be the version number. Some of the takeaways here are just the new architecture changes is going to make your tests more reliable, more stable in general. And tests are just going to be overall easier to read, easy to write. And support DevTools protocol is going to put you in control. So you're going to be able to do many of the things that just were a headache before, just not possible with Selenium. Now you're going to be able to do them right from your scripts, right? And that's all I had for you guys. That was kind of quick, but I'm going to open up for any questions you guys may have. I'll send it over to you, Daniel.
All right. Thank you so much, Marco. We really appreciate you coming in here and giving us that presentation. So once again, can everyone please just take a moment to appreciate Marco for giving us his time and knowledge. Marco, thank you again.
You're very welcome.
Thank you very much, Marco. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Marco.
Thank you, Marco.
Thank you, Marco.
Thank you, guys.
But thank just one thing, Marco.
Nice, nice. Loving how everyone is expressing their.
I love your audience. They're so responsive.
Hello, Marco. Just one thing. Hello, Marco. Just I want to know one thing about this particular session.
Yes.
Yeah. So just trying to know that if there is
I think you're breaking up a little bit there. I don't hear anything.
Yeah. I don't hear him either. So I think internet connection.
Yeah, I wonder it might be a bad connection. Maybe you can send your question through
the chat.
Text. Yeah, the chat. I may be able to pull that up.
Yeah, exactly. So no worries if your internet is not so strong, please put it in the chat. We'll love to go over the questions in the chat box. Sure. But yeah, it looks like everyone here is appreciative of you, Marco. You can see everyone rushing to say thank you to you.
Yeah, I really appreciate everyone that showed up. I didn't expect this many people to show up, so that's awesome. And thank you guys.
Yeah, hi, Marco. Hi, this is Sandhya. Really,
Hi,
it's really an interesting session, to be frank, and thank you for setting up this. I really love to know about this relative locators. It was really awesome. But I also want to know how different will it be with the following siblings. We know about that, right? Following siblings and preceding siblings. How does that actually differ from this? And also, does it work only with the tag name? This is my only question.
Sure. So it right now is designed to work only with the tag name. So you have to find that tag name. And when you speaking of relative siblings and things like that, that is more XPath. So in this case, you don't really need those anymore. Like if you don't want to use them, if you already have them, then great, continue to use them. But this is going to give you, it's like a new tool, right? It's a new tool available for you to use, right? So instead of trying to find all these siblings, relatives, siblings, then you can just use a relative locator, right? So it's basically a new tool in the toolbox, if you will.
Okay, yeah. Thanks, Marco, and thanks
Thank you
for
the
opportunity. I'm sorry, I couldn't actually switch on my video.
It's okay. Thank you, Sandhya, so much for asking your question. And no worries. We're here to learn. No need to turn. If for whatever reason you don't have to turn on your cameras. All right. Does anyone else have any other questions? Please feel free to put it in the chat box, and me and the team will happily go through these questions. All right, Vinayak, if you can hear me, do you see any other questions that we would like to go over?
Yes, Tanya, there are some questions in the chat box. For example, does it support automating Angular web applications?
Yeah.
Hi,
So
Marco. Yes.
yes. So with Angular, right? Selenium is probably I would say like the best tool for Angular web applications, right? They have some better tools that are just specifically for Angular. That does not mean that Selenium doesn't support it, right? You can still automate it using Selenium WebDriver. But if you were to ask me, like if you had a list of tools to choose from, I would probably choose some of the other tools, like Protractor, or some of the tools that is specifically designed for Angular. You also have Cypress, for example, that it might work better with Angular. It's just Selenium is going to be trying to make it easier for you to access other applications, like newer applications, right? We all know that, the newer applications, there's so much happening in one page. You could have so many different calls, asynchronous calls happening, and that has become a challenge with Selenium. So Selenium is just trying to make it a little bit easier for you to do that. But with that said, there are still other tools that are just right now that are, I think, a slightly better choice if you were to choose Angular, to choose to automate an Angular application.
Thanks, Marco. There
Yes.
is one more question. Can we access data from performance and network tabs using CDP?
Absolutely, yeah. So there are so many different things that you can do. Let me see if I can just share that with you guys here. I thought I had that open. I'm gonna bring this over here. So you have, hopefully you can see my screen. I hope I'm just showing the Chrome DevTools homepage. Here you have a network, right? So these are all the different network things that you can do, right? You can actually intersect network responses, and you can just add your custom code into it. You can change how your test behaves. You can alter the network messages that are going back and forth. So these are many other things. Some of them you're going to notice are experimental. There's still some development work going on. And then, this is a great resource if you have questions like that, what you can do or cannot do. Here you have some performance tab. I haven't, I'll be honest with you, I haven't played around with performance wise, but I know you can access, like logging and things like that, IO input, many different things that you can do. So you can, I would reference you to this website, and you can just find all the information that you may need.
Okay, Marco. Thanks for the information. And there is one more question on URL domains. So for example, URL domains need to be changed when we want to test with Geolocation emulator.
Right. So if you're saying if you want to test different URLs with different geolocations?
Yes, exactly.
Okay. I believe that should be possible right from your script. I haven't tried it myself, but I don't see why that would not be possible. I think I wrote a post where someone was doing something similar to that. So there might be some information that you may be able to find online on how people are doing that.
Okay, Marco. So
I think we can do to test multiple different locations by using data provider. I have done that.
Okay, there you go.
Yeah.
Yes, thanks, Sachin.
Yeah, no problem.
Thanks, Sachin. And the next question is there any timeline for stable non-beta version launch?
Yeah, so I was just reading on their website, and there's no really specific timeline that I could find. I know it's gone through all the alpha testing. I think there was like 6 different alpha versions, and now it's like 3rd beta version. So it's getting pretty close. I wouldn't be surprised if it's probably done by this summer, hopefully, where we're going to see the Selenium 4 official version released.
Okay, Marco. Yeah, I mean, even everyone it was announced long back, the Selenium 4, but somehow it's keep delaying, right? The launch.
Yes, I think it was announced by Simon Stewart back in 2020. I don't know if it was early 2020 when they started talking about this, but it's just been, there's so much testing, and they're encouraging people to go in and try it out and report any bugs. So it's probably the delayed is probably in bugs that it may have been found and needed to be fixed. You know how that works. You try to meet a deadline, but it's not always possible. So.
Right. Like I think they want to release like stable version until.
Right. Yeah.
So yeah, thanks for the information. And the next, hello, Dhaval, are you okay? Just a second.
So to continue with the question, if we wanted to automate the new product test suite, then is it safe to go with the beta version?
So if you're doing a new product, like if you're starting from scratch, you mean?
Yes, Martin.
Okay. Yeah, I really don't see, I wouldn't be hesitant to try the new version. I think it's even the beta that is available right now is pretty stable. I had a set of tests, that were using a different, the older version, 3.14159, and I just did the switch, and I just had to search, change a few things here and there, but nothing major, and everything continued to work just fine. So I really I don't think there would be an issue with you using the latest Selenium 4 beta version.
Okay, thank you. Thank you.
Yeah, you're welcome.
Thanks, Noel. And the next question is, can we get status and response of a request from network tab using DevTools options?
Right, I think we talked about a little bit earlier. Yeah, so there is a way for you to read the responses that are coming back using the DevTools, the DevTools protocol. So there's a ton of different things that you can do, and that's one of them.
Okay, Marco. Yeah, coming to the next question, can you suggest any test reporting tool that works better with Selenium 4?
So as far as reporting goes, I don't think there's going to be like a better tool when it comes to Selenium. They still have all the different options that you have. In my case, I use extent reports a lot. So it's really not. I don't think reporting is going to be affected by the new Selenium version. You should still be able to continue to use whatever you're using, whatever you have been using up to this point.
Okay. Noted that one. So yeah, there is a lengthy question from Singh Devbrat. We saw that device emulator option in the demo. Does that mean now if we need to automate browser-based app for mobile, then it can be completely done in Chrome browser of desktop for creating and running tests instead of relying on real devices or emulators that exist today?
Right. So that is an excellent question. So with the emulation of devices, you always, if you want to have the full power of having emulation for a mobile device, you can't go wrong without using an actual device, right? A physical device will always be far better than emulating into a browser, right? So Chrome will have some limitations there. You can still emulate certain things with geolocation and things like that. But what if you have like I don't know, like you need accelerometer or something like that, where you cannot emulate those things through a browser, right? So there are going to be some limitations, but for the most part, you could easily use it, do it using Chrome. So it would depend on whatever application you're trying to do. That's the short answer.
Okay, Marco. Yeah. So there are two more questions. Yes. How can we make sure the password shown in the password text box is masked?
So if the password text is masked, how can you make sure that the password is shown?
Yes.
I don't know of a way. Maybe someone has done it, but I don't know of a way that you can actually show the password, because that is the browser level, whoever's developing the application, they've designed it that way. So I don't think Selenium is going to be able to show the password. In some instances you can. You have a little button there where you can say show password, but I don't think Selenium can be used in that way to reveal passwords. It's just I think that would be a privacy issue.
Exactly, it's more into like security. So
right,
better we should not handle those things.
Right.
Yeah, and the next question is, what are the important things that we need to concentrate or consider while upgrading Selenium to 4?
So with Selenium 4, like I said, there are some things that are going to be deprecated. So if you have some tests that are using some methods that, when you run them, you see that, hey, this is going to be deprecated soon. So anything that was deprecated a while back is probably not going to be available anymore. So you may have to refactor some of your tests, just bring them up to date. So that would be probably the main thing. Other than that, it's not going to be any significant changes. Like I said, many of the things that we have noticed, with the architecture are happening at the wire protocol level. So you're not going to be able to see them, as you're writing your test, because it's not happening at the API level, right? So only, like I said, going back to what I said, some things are going to be deprecated, but that, the developers give you enough time for you to work on them. But now they're just being more strict. If they deprecated something, it's just not going to be available anymore. So you're going to have to refactor that. But like I said, if you just keep your test up to date, you should not have any problems.
Okay, Marco. So yeah, one final question. What language do you advise, even though Selenium support multiple languages? So based on your experience, which language do you prefer?
Yes. So for me, I'm biased towards Java. That's the language that I enjoy writing in. But I also see I recently run a poll on LinkedIn. There was a pretty significant support for JavaScript and Python. So I think Java is number one when it comes to automation, and then probably Python and JavaScript will be number two and number three. Pretty close there.
Okay, Marco. Yeah, mostly like 90% will go for Selenium with Java combination, right?
Right. Yeah, because you have so many resources too. When you search for, you don't know how to do something, you can easily search, go on YouTube, go on, search Google, and most of the responses you're going to find is for Java. So it's a lot of support, community support.
Usually, like Python also got a huge community support, right? But why the Selenium is more adapted with the Java only?
I think it's just the fact that Java is more popular. There may be some people that may argue that. I've seen some polls where people are saying Python is starting to take over Java, but I just haven't seen that in the automation community. Many of the things that I'm finding, it's mainly Java based. Even when you go to the Selenium website, you're going to see that the examples that they give, they all have examples for Java, and some of the other languages they may be missing examples. Like they're asking people, hey, can help us provide some examples, for Python, for example, or for Ruby, So most of the people are using Java, I would say.
Right, exactly. Yeah, one more question. As API encoding and decoding is not there, any security concerns will arise?
Not really. So the JSON wire protocol was just helping you translate the information, if you will, right? So it was kind of like a translator, something that was developed by the Selenium development team, because they were not up to the standards, right? The latest standard, the W3C standard. So we needed some way of communicating, for our tests to communicate with the browser, we needed to have some kind of translator in the middle. And that was the job of the JSON wire protocol. So that is no longer encoding and decoding the information. It's meaning that it doesn't translate the information that is going from your script over to the browser, right? Because now Selenium WebDriver is speaking the same language as the browser vendors, so there is no more need for the JSON wire protocol. So this is not going to make your test more vulnerable. In fact, it's going to make them, like I said, more stable and more secure.
Okay, Marco. So yeah, with that, we have completed our Q&A session, and all the questions have been answered. And yeah, thank you for joining us today. And it was a very wonderful session. And we have learned many things about Selenium 4, new features, and network capture controls. Yeah, a lot of things. So once again, thank you for joining with us and sharing your experience and knowledge.
Yes, you're very welcome, guys. And I would definitely encourage you guys to try it out. And I think you're going to love it.
And Marco, finally, any few words you want to say with the community about the Selenium and any other technologies?
I would say just, stay hungry, stay hungry for information. And that's going to take you miles ahead of the competition, right? Right now, we're going through a pandemic where people are losing their jobs. If you just keep, with the mindset of learning new things, you're not going to be short of jobs, so that's what I would encourage you to just keep learning. Selenium is just one of the tools. There are so many new tools coming onto the market. I'm trying to learn them myself, like Playwright, like you have so many different tools that are Cypress, for example, that are coming along, and they're just being so, compelling, when you try to use them. So just stay hungry for information. That's what I would encourage you. Learning new things is just, it's just going to help you in your career.
Thanks, Marco, for the wonderful words. And yeah, as you mentioned, like Cypress is in the currently in the market. So what is your, thoughts on Cypress? Is it like will be the booming in the future, or it will more? What is your thoughts on Selenium and Cypress?
Sure. So I think Cypress is just it has a very is in a very unique position right now because it is so easy to use. It's easy to for people to pick up and get ready to go. With Selenium, you have to kind of like get someone to help you out, because there are so many different components. You have to choose the language bindings, and you have to find the like what assertion language you want to use or a certain library you want to use. So different components you have to put together. You have to know what you're doing. With tools like Cypress, they just make it easy out of the box. You just npm install Cypress and you're ready to go. It's right out of the box. So that's one of the benefits to using Cypress. So I would say I would definitely encourage people to try it out. I'm pretty impressed by it. That's what I would say.
Okay, Marco. So thanks for the detailed information. And guys, we are ending up. There is one more question. TestCaf is also one of the solution picking up heat in our community. So yeah, I agree with that. But
Right.
yeah, still TestCaf is like only like less community. So you have any thoughts about TestCaf?
Yeah, so TestCafe is one of those tools that also is brand new. And in fact, the insurance company that I work for, we use the Guidewire software, right? And they have adopted in their automation framework, they have adopted TestCafe. So I was really impressed by it because this is a global multi-billion-dollar company, and they have seen some value in using TestCafe. So it's definitely, it's definitely picking up steam like that Deval was mentioning there.
Right, Marco. But as I was aware of, the TestCaf was launched before the Cypress, but somehow it's still lacking behind the Cypress. I'm not sure why the community is not growing much like Cypress.
Yeah, so I think with Cypress, TestCafe, Puppeteer, Playwright, they're all trying to compete, right, for attention, and I think it's going to be very interesting what happens in the next, I would say, in the next year or 18 months or so. I'm going to be looking forward to see what, people are going to, steer towards, So I really don't have a preference for either or. I haven't played around with TestCafe, so I can't say much about it. But yeah, it's going to be interesting to see what people end up choosing.
Okay. Yeah, as you mentioned, like these days nowadays, like many communities mentioned Puppeteer and Playwright. So you have any thoughts about those tools? Is it like out of the box implementation or just a regular implementation?
So yeah, with those tools, it's just make it easier, I think, for people to get started, which is the biggest hurdle. I think if you're trying to take like a manual tester over to automation or even a hybrid role, I think it's easier for them to just start learning one of these other tools because they're so easy to get up and going. With the tools like Puppeteer and Playwright, they have teams of developers, or this company is working, like Microsoft, they're developing these tools to make them easier to use, user friendly. So those are the biggest advantages to using those tools.
Okay, Marco.
And one last thing I would like to mention is that those tools are more like higher level, right? Selenium is more lower level for, so what I mean by that is that with Selenium, you can do more things, like it's more customizable, if you will. With these other tools, and there's a little bit less customization, it's just because of the fact that they're making it so easy, their API is so easy for you to use, So that's one thing to keep in mind as well.
Right, agree. Yeah, so with that, like we have come up to the end of the session, and thanks for the presentation and answering all the questions. Very informative session and very insightful, and we have a good number of participants, student, active audience. So thanks once again. So over to you, Daniel.
Thank you so much, Vinayak, for helping me handle the Q&A session. So thanks, guys. It's because of you guys that the Q&A session was able to become very fruitful and informative. So it's all part of you guys as well for being interactive. Give yourself a pat on the back. We really appreciate you guys interacting with our sessions and interacting with Marco. We really appreciate that for tonight. All right, there's actually one question from Project Verna, which is already answered in the chat, but just for everyone's knowledge. She asks, where did you say we'll be able to view the recording? So as you all already know, this session has been recorded. And as you can see in the chat, Vinayak has answered that this webinar recording session will be available by next week. And it will be on our QA Tech Talks YouTube channel. So do subscribe for notifications and you'll be able to see this recording on your feed. All right. And for those of you who have asked me if we'll be able to get the slides, hopefully we can. We'll just ask Marco if we can have the slides from Marco. Would that be okay with you?
Absolutely,
Marco?
absolutely, guys. Yeah, I'll make it available for you guys.
Fantastic. We will get in touch with Marco, attain his slides, and we will put it in our Telegram chat. And if you are not in our Telegram chat already, Vinayak has put it in the chat. Do join our Telegram group and you will get the slides there. So do join our YouTube, Telegram, and you will stay up to date with all the things and webinars that we have been hosting and doing, okay? So that's just for everyone's information. And lastly, guys, we will also be having our global summit happening on 5th and 6th June. So here is the link for all of you to know. So we are having this summit by our company, and we're gonna have esteemed guest speakers coming, just like Marco. You know, speakers of Marco's stature coming to have sharing sessions as well. So do get your tickets and do be part of the global summit. All right. So that has concluded the session. But before we all end, we have one final thing, and that is to have a group photo with everyone. So please, everyone, do take the time to maybe fix your hair or put on a shirt and do turn on your camera if you are comfortable. If you are not comfortable, that is totally fine. But if you are comfortable, please, we encourage you to turn on your cameras so that we can all have all of you documented for joining our session. And then I will personally take screenshots of all of you by the slide, okay? And I will let everyone of you know when I'm done. So we will just have the screen sharing ending here.
Oh, yes, please. Sorry about that.
No worries, no worries. Really appreciate it. Okay, and then we'll just give everyone a quick minute to fix your hair, put on a shirt, look photogenic. Remember, all of you are beautiful people. All you just need to do is turn on your camera and you're all set. Okay, I see some of you are turning on your cameras. Very good. Just a little bit more, then we can get started. Thank you, guys. Thank you, Venu. Thank you, Srinivas. Thank you, Prashant. Thank you, Project Verna. Thank you, Gopal. Nice, nice. Just a few more cameras, and then we'll take a screenshots.
Thank you.
Okay, and Marco, you can end sharing your screen, and then we will be able to take the photos.
Let me see here. Okay, I'm having. Are you able to end it for me? I'm not seeing the. Give me 1 second.
Yeah, we should be able to.
Yeah.
Let's just try to do it on our end. Nice.
Oh, okay. Yeah, sorry about that. I was having trouble finding the button here.
No worries. Such is life in the tech industry. Am I right?
Yeah.
It's all about testing and testing until you find what works, right?
I'm still getting used to the Zoom meetings.
Yeah. All right, all of you look very good. So I'm going to count 1, 2, 3, and I'll be taking screenshots. So there's 2 slides. So that means I'll be taking 2 screenshots, okay? So even though I say 1, 2, 3, there's a 50% chance that it's not on you yet, okay? So just keep smiling, everyone, okay? All right, everyone ready? In 3, 2, 1, smile. Very good. Oh, it's very good. Okay, now for the next slide. Ready? 1, 2, 3. Very nice. All right, that concludes our session and our group photo. Thank you all so much for coming tonight. Again, my name is Daniel and I've been your host. You all have been a wonderful audience. Marco, again, our presenter, and Vinayak, my team member. And thank you all so much for coming tonight. It has been a wonderful session. Thank you and good night, everyone.
Thank you, guys. Good night.
Thank you, Marco.
Thank you, Daniel and Marco.
Thanks,
right.
Marco.
Thank you so
Thanks
much.
everyone for joining today.